The night my song first played on the radio, a police officer knocked on the studio door. My voice was still coming from the speaker. I was singing about rain, hunger, and a girl who slept under a broken bus shelter. Then the officer looked at me and said, "Are you Lena Rowe?" I froze. Before I could answer, a man stepped out from behind him. His coat was wet. His hair was grey. His hands shook, but I knew his eyes. It was my father. The man who left me when I was 11. He held a folded paper in one hand and my old school photo in the other. Then he said, "I am here to take my daughter home." For a moment, I could not hear the radio anymore. I could only hear the rain outside. The same rain I had slept in for years. The same rain I had sung about. The same rain that had heard my name when nobody else did. My name is Lena Rowe. For a long time, I believed I was no one. I believed my mother left because she did not love me. I believed my father left because I was too much trouble. I believed the world was full of warm windows, but none of them were meant for me. But the night my father came back with a police officer, I learned something worse. Some people do not come back because they love you. Some people come back because other people finally see you. I was born in a small town called Millstone. We lived above an old laundromat on a busy street. At night, the floor shook when the machines ran downstairs. Our apartment was small. The kitchen window was cracked. In winter, cold air came through the glass. But when my mother sang, the room felt warm. Her name was Elise. She had tired eyes and gentle hands. She sang while washing dishes. She sang while folding clothes. She sang when my father came home angry. Her songs were not loud. They were soft, like a hand on my head. My father, Warren, was different then. Sometimes he smiled. Sometimes he lifted me into the air and called me his little bird. But after he lost his job, he changed. He drank too much. He shouted at my mother. He blamed her for everything. He blamed me for crying. At night, I sat in the corner and pressed my hands over my ears. One evening, I saw my mother hide money in a tea tin. When she noticed me, she put one finger to her lips. One day, she whispered, "We may need this." A week later, she was gone. My father told me she had run away. He said she did not want a child. He said I should stop waiting by the window because she was not coming back. But I waited anyway. I waited every evening until the sky turned black. She never came. After that, my father stopped being a father. He stopped cooking. He stopped cleaning. He stopped going to work. Sometimes he looked at me as if I were a stranger in his room. Then, one cold morning, I woke up and found his coat gone. His shoes were gone. The tea tin was open and empty. There was no note. No food. No money. I waited all day. I waited all night. At first, I told myself he would come back. Fathers had to come back. That was what I believed then. But he did not. 3 days later, the landlord came. He saw me alone in the apartment. He looked at the empty table, the dirty cups, and the bag in my hand. "Where is your father?" he asked. "He is coming back," I said. The landlord sighed. "The rent has not been paid. You cannot stay here." I begged him. I told him I could clean the stairs. I told him I could pay later. He gave me 1 hour. I packed my life into a purple backpack. 1 sweater. 1 notebook. My mother's scarf. A small photo of her holding me when I was little. Then I walked down the stairs and lost the last door that had ever belonged to me. I was 11 years old. The first night, I slept behind a closed bakery. The second night, I slept near the bus station. The third night, it rained. I sat under a broken bus shelter and held my backpack against my chest. Water came through the roof and fell beside my face. Cars passed. People walked by. No one stopped. That was when I learned how easy it is for a child to become invisible. At first, I begged for food. I hated it. I hated the way people looked at me. I hated holding out my hand. Then one afternoon, I started singing. I did not plan it. I was sitting outside the market with an empty stomach. I felt so cold that I began humming my mother's song. A little girl stopped. Then an old woman stopped. When I finished, 2 coins were on the ground in front of me. After that, I sang every day. I sang near the market. I sang outside the train station. I sang under shop roofs when it rained. I wrote songs in my notebook with a pencil I found near a school fence. My songs were simple. They were about cold hands, empty rooms, and waiting for someone to remember your name. Some people laughed at me. Some people told me to go home. Some people said, "Where are your parents?" I never knew how to answer that. So I sang louder. When I was 15, I got very sick. My chest hurt when I breathed. My shoes were wet. My hands shook all the time. One evening, I sat under the roof of a closed bookshop. Rain fell in silver lines in front of me. I sang a song I had written that morning. The first line was from my mother. The rain remembers what people forget. When I finished, an older woman was standing across the street. She had silver hair, small glasses, and a dark green coat. She did not throw me a coin. She did not walk away. She crossed the road and asked, "Where did you learn that line?" I pulled my backpack closer. "My mother sang it," I said. What was her name? I should have lied. Street children learn to lie because truth can be dangerous. But I was too tired. "Elise Rowe," I said. The woman went pale. "My name is Miriam Hale," she said. "I taught your mother music when she was young." My whole body became stiff. "Where is she?" I asked. Miriam looked at the wet street. "I don't know." "Then you don't know anything," I said. I tried to stand, but I coughed so hard I nearly fell. Miriam reached for me. I stepped back. She lowered her hand. "Come with me for tea," she said. "Only tea. You can leave after that." I did not trust her. But I was hungry. I was wet. And she knew my mother's song. So I followed her. Her house was small and warm. It stood at the end of a quiet lane. There were yellow curtains in the windows and a blue chair by the door. Inside, it smelled like soup, piano wood, and old books. Miriam gave me dry socks. She gave me hot tea. She put a bowl of soup in front of me and looked away while I ate too fast. That small kindness almost made me cry. She let me sleep on her couch that night. I told myself I would leave in the morning. But in the morning, I heard music. Miriam was playing the piano in the front room. The song was my mother's song. Not exactly the same, but close enough to make my heart hurt. I stood in the doorway and listened. Miriam stopped when she saw me. "Your mother had a beautiful voice," she said. I wanted to hate her for knowing my mother. But I also wanted to ask her every question in the world. So I stayed. At first, I stayed because I needed food and warmth. Then I stayed because Miriam helped me with my songs. She taught me how to breathe before singing. She taught me how to listen to silence. She taught me that a song was not only sound. It was also memory. But she also called social services. When I found out, I felt betrayed. A woman named Ms. Patel came to the house with a folder. She asked where my father was. She asked where I had slept. She asked if anyone had hurt me. Each answer felt like pulling glass from my throat. Ms. Patel said I might need to go to a youth home. I stood up and said, "No." Miriam looked at me and said, "Then I will apply to be your temporary guardian." I stared at her. "Why would you do that?" I asked. She answered softly, "Because someone should have stood in your doorway sooner." I did not understand what she meant. Not then. For the next few months, Miriam's house became the first safe place I had known in years. I went back to school part-time. I helped wash dishes. I swept the floor. In the afternoon, we sat by the piano and worked on songs. One song became special. I called it "The Rain Knows My Name." It began with my mother's old line, but the rest was mine. I wrote about the bus shelter. I wrote about my purple backpack. I wrote about a girl who sang because silence was colder than rain. One Thursday evening, Miriam took me to a small music night at the library hall. There were only 12 people. An old man played guitar. A woman read a poem. A boy forgot his song and laughed. When Miriam told me to sing, I shook my head. She placed my notebook in my hands. "Fear can come with you," she said. "It does not have to stop you." So I sang. At first, my voice was small. Then I closed my eyes and saw the rain again. I saw the old bus shelter. I saw the girl I had been, holding her backpack like it was a person. When I finished, no one moved. Then a woman in the front row began to clap. Soon the whole small room was clapping. Miriam stood by the wall with tears on her face. That night, a man came to speak to us. His name was Peter Knox. He worked at the local radio station. He said, "People should hear that song." I thought he was only being kind. But he meant it. The next week, I went to the radio station. It was above a shoe repair shop. The studio was small, with one microphone and a red light on the wall. Peter said, "Do not sing for everyone. Sing for one person who needs it." So I sang for the girl I had been. That night, Miriam and I sat in her kitchen and listened to the radio. When my voice came through the speaker, I covered my mouth. I sounded scared. I sounded young. But I sounded alive. For a few minutes, I felt as if the world had opened one small window. Then the first phone call came. A woman called the radio station and said, "Tell that girl to stop singing. That song belongs to my dead sister." Peter tried to calm her. But the woman said, "Ask Miriam Hale why she is hiding the truth." The line went dead. I turned to Miriam. "What truth?" She stood up and turned off the radio. "What truth, Miriam?" She did not answer. That silence changed everything. The next morning, she put an old envelope on the kitchen table. My name was written on the front. The handwriting looked like my mother's birthday card, the only card I still had. My hands began to shake. Miriam said, "Your mother sent this to me years ago." I looked at her. "You had a letter from my mother?" "Yes. And you never told me." Her voice broke. I was afraid. I opened the letter. My mother wrote that she had not left because she hated me. She wrote that she had left because my father had become dangerous. She wrote that she planned to find work, save money, and come back for me. She said if anything happened, I should find Miriam Hale. At the bottom, she wrote one line. "Lena, if you ever feel lost, follow the song. It will lead you to someone who remembers me." I could not breathe. For years, I had believed my mother forgot me. But she had left me a path. Miriam said she had gone to our apartment after receiving the letter. My father told her my mother had taken me to another town. Later, he said we had moved away. "I should have searched harder," Miriam said. "I should have called someone. I failed you." I wanted to forgive her because she had saved me. I wanted to hate her because she had waited too long. Both feelings lived in me at the same time. Before I could decide what to do, another trouble came. My notebook disappeared. It happened at the library hall after a music night. I put it in my bag. People came to speak to me. A girl asked about my song. A man asked for my name. When I looked again, my bag was open. The notebook was gone. That notebook held every song I had written since I was 11. It held my mother's line. It held my rain song. It held the only map of my heart. 3 days later, I heard my song on a youth music show. But it was not my voice. A boy named Theo Marsh was singing it. Theo came from a rich family. His mother owned the biggest music store in town. He had perfect hair, clean clothes, and a smile people trusted. The host asked, "Theo, how did you write such a powerful song?" Theo smiled and said, "I imagined what it would feel like to be alone in the rain. I stood in Miriam's living room, frozen." He had changed a few words. But the heart of the song was mine. The line from my mother was there. The melody was there. Even the pause before the last verse was there. I whispered, "He stole it." Miriam's face became hard. "Yes," she said. "He did. Peter helped us. He had my radio recording." People at the library hall remembered hearing me sing the song first. But Theo's mother came to Miriam's house in a black car. She stood at the gate and looked at me as if I was something dirty. "This can be quiet," she said. Miriam asked, "What does that mean?" Theo's mother smiled. "It means the girl says she made a mistake. She says she heard Theo practicing and became confused." I stepped forward. I did not hear him. "He stole my notebook." She looked at me calmly. "Can you prove that?" I could not. Then she said the words I never forgot. "Be careful, Lena. People know you lived on the street. They may not believe you." That was when I learned another hard truth. When you have been poor, some people think your truth is poor, too. For a week, the town talked. Some people believed me. Some believed Theo. Some said I wanted attention. Some said a street girl would say anything for money. I wanted to stop singing. I told Miriam, every time I open my mouth, someone takes something from me. She sat beside me for a long time. Then she said, "Your father took your home. Theo took your song. Do not help them take your voice." The next morning, Peter invited me back to the station. I was afraid, but I went. He played my first recording. Then he asked me to speak. My voice shook, but I told the truth. I told people when I wrote the song. I told them what the first line meant. I told them it came from my mother, Elise Rowe. Then the woman from the first call called again. This time, she gave her name. "I am Nora Bell," she said. Elise was my sister. My heart stopped. Nora said my mother had died 2 years after leaving Millstone. She said my mother had been working in another town and still trying to find me. She never stopped looking, Nora said. And that song was hers before it became Lena's. If Lena sings it, she has the right. That boy does not. I cried so hard I could not speak. After that, everything changed quickly. People began calling the station. A woman from the library hall said she heard me sing the song before Theo. An old man said he had seen me writing in my notebook near the market years ago. Then a girl from the youth music show came forward. She said Theo had shown her a purple notebook and laughed about finding street girl gold. 2 days later, my notebook appeared on Miriam's porch. It was inside a plastic bag. Some pages were torn. Some were wet. But most were still there. Theo never apologized to my face. His mother sent a short letter. It said there had been a misunderstanding. I kept that letter for one reason only. To remind myself that some people call theft a misunderstanding when the thief has money. After the truth came out, a music teacher from Northbridge City contacted Peter. Her name was Clara Miles. She ran a school for young singers who could not pay. She wanted to meet me. I should have been happy, but I was afraid. Every good thing in my life seemed to come with a shadow. What if this is another trap? I asked Miriam. She said, "Then we will face it with open eyes." I went to Northbridge with her. The city was loud and fast. The music school was inside an old brick building. Music came from every room. Clara asked me to sing. I sang The Rain Knows My Name. When I finished, she said, "Your voice is not smooth, but it is alive." Smooth voices are everywhere. Alive voices are rare. She offered me a place at the school. For the first time, my future looked bigger than my fear. Then my father came back. He did not come back with flowers. He did not come back with an apology. He came back with a police officer, a folded paper, and a lie. That night at the radio station, after my song played, he stood in the doorway and said, "I am her father. She has been kept from me." Miriam stepped in front of me. "She was abandoned," Miriam said. My father looked hurt, as if he were the victim. "That is not true," he said. "I have been searching for my daughter for years." I almost laughed. Searching? He had left me with no food, no note, no coat, and no way to survive. The police officer looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Rose says he still has parental rights," he said. "There may need to be a formal review." My father held out the folded paper. It was a request for emergency custody. He had written that Miriam had influenced me, hidden me, and used my music for money. Used my music for money. The words made me feel sick. Miriam said, "This is false." My father looked at me. "Lena, come with me now. We can talk at home." Home. That word from his mouth felt like a knife. I stepped back. "I will not go with you." His face changed for 1 second. The soft father face disappeared. Under it, I saw the man from the apartment. The man who shouted. The man who emptied the tea tin. The man who left. Then he smiled again because the officer was watching. "You are confused," he said gently. "You have been through a lot." That was his new story. I was not a daughter. I was not a singer. I was a confused girl. The next week became a nightmare. My father went to the town newspaper. He cried in front of a young reporter. He said he had lost his wife, then lost his daughter. He said Miriam had taken advantage of a broken child. The article called him a father fighting to bring his daughter home. People started talking again. Some believed him. Some said, "A child belongs with her father." Some asked why Miriam had kept my mother's letter hidden. That question hurt because it was not completely unfair. My father knew how to use every weak place in the story. Then he came to my school. I was leaving music class when I saw him near the gate. He was standing beside Theo's mother. My stomach dropped. Theo's mother smiled at me. "Your father and I spoke," she said. "It seems many people have been using you." My father held out his hand. "Lena, get in the car." I looked around. Students were watching. "No." His voice stayed soft, but his eyes became hard. "If you fight me, I will tell the court you are unstable. I will tell them Miriam made you hate me. I will tell them you lied about Theo because you wanted attention." Theo's mother added, "And we have lawyers." For a moment, I felt 11 again. Small. Cold. Easy to push. Then I heard Miriam's voice in my memory. "Do not help them take your voice." I walked backward through the school gate and ran to the office. That same afternoon, Miss Patel filed an emergency report. The custody hearing was moved closer. 3 days. Only 3 days to prove I should not be given to the man who had left me in the rain. Miriam, Peter, Nora, and Miss Patel worked together. They found the old landlord. He remembered my father leaving. He remembered finding me alone. They found the bakery owner who saw me sleeping behind his shop. Peter brought my radio recordings. Nora brought my mother's letters. But my father brought something, too. A letter. He said it was from my mother. He said my mother had written that she wanted him to raise me, not Miriam. He said Miriam had always been jealous of my mother's voice. When I saw the letter, my hands went cold. The handwriting looked like my mother's. For one terrible second, I wondered if everything I believed was wrong again. Nora took one look and said, "No." My father said, "You cannot prove that." Nora's face was white with anger. My sister never wrote Lena's name that way. I looked closer. The letter spelled my name, Lena. My mother had never spelled it wrong. Never. Still, the court had to look at it. The night before the hearing, I could not sleep. I sat in Miriam's kitchen with my notebook open. Rain tapped against the window. Miriam sat across from me. "I am sorry," she said. "You said that before." "I know. Why did you keep the letter?" She looked down at her hands. "Because I was ashamed. Your mother trusted me. I failed her. Then when I found you, I wanted to become the person who saved you. I was afraid if you knew the whole truth, you would see the part where I failed. I was quiet for a long time. Then I said, 'You did fail.'" She closed her eyes. "But you also came back," I said. She began to cry. I did not hug her. Not then. But I did not leave the room. The next morning, we went to court. The room was small. The walls were beige. The air smelled like paper and old coffee. My father wore a clean shirt. He looked sad and gentle. I knew that face. It was the face he showed strangers. He told the judge he loved me. He said he had made mistakes, but he had searched for me. He said Miriam had filled my head with lies. Then his lawyer asked him, "Do you want money from Lena's music?" My father put a hand over his heart. "I only want my child." Then Miss Patel asked him a simple question. "What is Lena's birthday?" He smiled. Then he gave the wrong date. The room went silent. Miss Patel asked, "What color was the backpack she carried when she was found homeless?" He said, "Black." It was purple. She asked, "What song did her mother sing to her?" He said, "I don't remember." Nora stood up in the back of the room and whispered, "Because you never listened." Then it was my turn. I walked to the front. My knees shook so badly that I held the edge of the table. The judge looked at me kindly. "Lena, you may speak in your own words." I looked at my father. For years, I had dreamed of this moment. I had dreamed of shouting. I had dreamed of asking why. But when I saw him there, I did not want revenge. I wanted the truth to stand taller than his lies. So I said, "My father did not lose me. He left me." My voice shook, but I kept going. He left me with no food, no money, and no note. I slept behind shops. I slept under a bus shelter. I sang because I was afraid if I stayed quiet, I would disappear. My father looked down. I said, "Miriam made mistakes. She should have told me about my mother's letter. But she gave me food when I was hungry. She gave me a bed when I was sick. She helped me speak when other people wanted me silent." Then I turned back to the judge. My father came back after my song was on the radio. He came back after the music school called. He came back when there was something to take. My father stood suddenly. "That is not true." The judge told him to sit down. But he did not sit. He pointed at me. "You ungrateful girl," he shouted. "After everything I suffered, you stand there and shame me." There he was. The real man. Not the sad father from the newspaper. Not the gentle man from the doorway. The man from the apartment. The room became very still. The officer moved closer to him. My father looked around and seemed to understand what he had done. He sat down slowly. But it was too late. The judge denied his emergency request. Miriam stayed my guardian. My father was ordered not to come near me without permission. When we walked out of the courthouse, rain was falling again. For a second, I almost laughed. Rain had followed me through every important day of my life. Miriam held an umbrella above me. I looked at her and said, "You don't have to cover all of it." She smiled sadly. "I know," she said. "But I can cover some." I went to Northbridge after that. I studied music. I learned to read notes. I learned how to stand on a stage without shaking. I also learned that healing does not mean forgetting. Some nights, I still dreamed of the bus shelter. Some days, I still felt afraid when people raised their voices. But I kept singing. Nora came to my first big concert. She brought photos of my mother. In one photo, my mother was 17, standing beside a piano. Miriam stood next to her, young and smiling. I stared at that picture for a long time. My mother had been more than the wound she left in me. She had dreams. She had songs. She had tried to save me. Years passed. I never became a huge star. Life is not that simple. But I became a singer people listened to when they needed to feel less alone. I sang at schools, shelters, small halls, and community centers. Sometimes after a show, a woman would come to me and say, "I slept in my car once." A man would say, "My father left, too." A young girl would say nothing at all. She would only hold my hand. Every Thursday, I taught music at a youth center. I told the students, "Your story is yours. Do not let anyone take it from you." One rainy night, after class, I passed the old bus station in Millstone. The shelter was still there. The roof still leaked. A girl sat under it with a backpack on her knees. She was maybe 12. People walked past her. Some looked. Most did not stop. I stood across the street and felt my old life rise inside me. I was tired. It was raining. I had already taught my class. I could have told myself I had done enough for one day. That is how people walk past pain. They tell themselves someone else will stop. Then the girl began to hum. It was not my song. It was not my mother's song. It was only a small broken sound. But I knew what it meant. I crossed the street and placed a wrapped sandwich beside her. She looked up fast. "What do you want?" I stepped back so she would not be afraid. "Nothing," I said. "I know a warm place with soup, if you want it. If you don't, the sandwich is still yours." She stared at me for a long time. Then she asked, "Are you the rain singer?" I smiled a little. "Some people call me that." She looked at the wet road. "My mother liked your song." I sat down at the other end of the bench, leaving space between us. The rain fell between us like a curtain. After a while, she whispered, "Can you sing it?" So I did. I sang softly under the broken roof. I sang for my mother. I sang for Miriam. I sang for the child I had been. And I sang for the girl beside me, who was still deciding if the world was safe enough to trust for one more night. When I finished, she was crying. I did not tell her everything would be fine. I knew better than that. I only stayed. That is what I still think about. Many people heard me after my voice was on the radio. Many people clapped after I stood on a stage. But before that, I was only a wet child with a purple backpack. How many people saw me and kept walking? I do not ask this to blame every stranger. I ask it because I have been both people now. I have been the girl in the rain. And I have been the person standing across the street, choosing whether to stop. So now, whenever I see someone lost, I ask myself one question. If this were the night that could change their whole life, would I walk past, or would I become the first person who stayed?